Today we welcome a very special guest. I'm very honored to have Dato Shahira join us today at this talk, Upscaling Malaysia's Sustainability with Yayasan Hasanah. So the intro for Dato is Dato Shahira Ahmad Bazari. Thank you very much for joining us. She's the Managing Director and Trustee of Yayasan Hasanah. Welcome, Dato. Very nice to see you.
Hello.
You do so much good work. It's nearly impossible to summarize everything you do, and we certainly thank you for all the work you do at Yayasan Shahira or Yayasan Hasanah. Pardon me. It is a lot of good work. You've helped over 1 million lives. That's incredible, right? It's even hard to fathom how a group of individuals. I saw a picture of your team earlier. It's great to see Malaysians helping Malaysians. So please, we'll leave it at that. Thank you. You can stop presenting, Banu, and we'll turn it over to you, Datu. Welcome.
Thank you, Serge. And hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I said yes right away because it was International Women's Day, and it is my great honor and to contribute to whatever conversations and discussions that could help promote the cause and empowerment and upliftment of women, not only in Malaysia, but all over the world. I myself, as a mother of 3 girls, 3 teenage girls, this is a cause and a topic and an issue that I'm very passionate about. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to celebrate International Women's Day together with your team, Serge. So I also want to...
It's an honor. I have a team of girls here too. They're not my children, but I am old enough to be their father. But 3 girls at home, my goodness, you must be a patient and a good mom, I imagine. That's great. I have your slides up. I'm not sure. Did you want to just jump in and go for it, Dato?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So today I've been invited to speak about our sustainability journey in Yasan Hasanah, and I'd be very happy to do that. If you could go to the next slide, please, Serge. Thank you for helping me with the slides. I just wanted to give a bit of an overview and introduction of Yasan Hasanah. For those of you who are not familiar, we are the foundation of Khazanah Nasional. We were actually incorporated or launched in July 2015. So relatively young foundation, 7 years old now. And you know, we are fortunate that we have been able to operate sustainably over the last 7 years through an endowment that Khazanah has given Yasan Hasanah. And therefore we are able to invest and support programs and have a long-term view of the kind of impact we want to create. And if you can see, we look at 5 focus areas, which are education, community development, environment, arts heritage, and public spaces, as well as knowledge. We contribute to 15 out of the 17 SDGs, and you can see the numbers there. I think the total number of people that we have assisted just in the last 2 years have, you know, doubled, which basically, you know, tells you about the vulnerabilities of our people in society and how we need to do a lot better in providing, you know, stronger social safety nets and social protection to the most vulnerable in our society and community.
So Dato, do you think, I mean, obviously your foundation established in 2015, you're always growing. How much of the latest growth was just a function of your good work, or was it COVID? Was it the pandemic? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think search for the non-profit sector, growth is probably not great. Because when you have more people that you're assisting, and you have more money that you need to give, that means there are a lot more vulnerable individuals in our society that is in need of help. But you are right. In 2021 alone, we gave out 5 times more than what we usually give in the last 5 years. So we are typically about 100 million, but in 2021 we actually managed and distributed assistance to the tune of over 550 million ringgit. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad, Serge.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I understand. But it is good work.
Tells you
it's good work.
The vulnerability in our society. If we can move to the next slide. Okay, just a quick one here. I just wanted to share with our listeners that as a foundation, Yayasan Hasanah is both a grant maker, but also invest a lot in building capacity in the third sector, because we do believe that to achieve impact at scale, we need to work together, and we need to support each other in terms of various areas that require support. So as a grant maker, I think you saw the numbers earlier. In 2021, we worked with about 169 partners. So that's essentially civil society organizations, NGOs, social enterprises, and then and we work with them through projects. So they are essentially our ecosystem champions, if I could call that. And because we work so closely with NGOs, we're able to understand their needs in terms of capacity and capability development. So we don't just give training, we also obviously support them in their organizational development, not just programmatic funding, but also organizational funding. Because as a funder, we believe that we need to form a partnership with our civil society organizations so that we can grow and support each other better. So just to say that, we go beyond dollars and cents in terms of our grant making and actually work together with our partners in supporting their organization and capabilities and capacities. Next slide, please, Serge. This slide, because I understand that some of your audiences are also from the business community, not just the non-profit community, I thought I would just share how Yayasan Hasanah and Khazanah work together in advancing Malaysia in that sense. So that's the theme that Khazanah carries in terms of advancing Malaysia. And if you understand the way that Yayasan Hasanah has been set up, it's actually a value spectrum, if I can call it, Serge. So we have Khazanah on the right, high economic growth, high investments, value creation. And then as you go more towards the left, right in the middle, you will have impact investing, social businesses, and so on and so forth. And to the far left, you'll have Yayasan Hasanah doing philanthropy and charities, and doing a lot more societal value aspirations. So it's a whole spectrum of value creation and value distribution, and that's how we are situated as a organization and as the sovereign fund of Malaysia.
Right. I've got one question in the chat. I thought, there was one question saying, are local GLC universities eligible for the grant?
Local GLC universities, so that would be MMU and UTP, University Petronas. Yes, we work with many universities and academia for research, particularly research. So yes, thank you for that question. So on this one, I think on advancing Malaysia, Khazanah is looking at 4 core areas, and for Yayasan Hasanah, we support their capacity building initiatives and building vibrant communities. And under building capacity, Serge, if you look at the different layers of society where YH have been investing in. So it's not just scholarships, and these are your bright young Malaysians who get scholarships into the top 20 universities in the world, but we also do professional development courses. But if you think about all of the work that we're doing in our 5 pillars of education, community development, environment, all layers of society have benefited from either social mobility programs, livelihood and skills development programs, income generation, vocational training, and quite a lot of and we work with indigenous communities, we work with persons with disabilities, we work with refugees and stateless communities, single mothers, youth, all layers of society. And I think building capacity and really maximizing human potential has been something that Hasana and Hasana has been very proud of over the years since we have been, providing this.
Okay, one more question for you. So there's a few questions coming in here. So how does someone reach out to Hasana? What's the process to reaching out to you? Is there an email? What would you recommend if someone wants to reach out?
Yeah, we have an email. We have our social media, which is Yasan Hasanah. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can get us there. You can also reach us through our website, yasanhasanah.org. There's a contact us there, and maybe one of my team members can put that up, an email up for anyone who wishes to contact us. And just to let you all know, since there are a lot of interest in contacting us, our grant cycle is now open. So we open in 17 January and we will be open till 30th June. But don't do the Malaysian thing and wait till the last minute. Please apply early because we process our applications every 45 days. And this is a good time to come in and apply for the Hasana Special Grant 2022. Okay, Serge, maybe we move to the next.
Last minute.
Okay, I mean, this is a very busy slide, but what I wanted to say is that actually in the next 2 slides, the key message that we're trying to say is that, when you think about ESG, sustainability, and delivering societal value, personally, Serge also coming from the for-profit and entering the non-profit. So, I do have a perspective of how people in the for-profit and non-profit think and operate, right? So when I had to kind of come and, lead this foundation, I realized, wow, it's actually, there's a whole art and science to the non-profit world, right? So typically we think, oh, it's charity and donations and, it's just simple, just do good. But actually there's quite a lot to understand. And the dynamics of the partnership in the non-profit sector is actually quite different from the for-profit. There could be similarities, but more pronounced. For example, in building partnership, it's 2 ways. It's really around building trust, listening more, taking a lot more risks as well, because you here it's not really about your P&L or your bottom line in that sense. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with human life, you're dealing with the environment, which is all very unpredictable. So how do you do impact matrix, right? How do you form a trusting relationship with your partners? How do you work together to ensure better outcomes? So one of the things, Serge, if I may share, I've kind of coined these things, and I think these are really important, and I call it the 5 C's in achieving impact at scale. Yes, Serge, you have a question? Okay. All right. So the 5 C's in achieving impact at scale. Number 1, coordination. We all need to do better in coordinating our collective efforts because oftentimes there are a lot of overlaps and redundancies in what's happening in the field. And I think a platform that enables coordination and data collection in a good way is something that is, there's an opportunity area, there's a gap in coordination in how we do work. Second, collaboration and partnerships. So collaboration, I think eventually everyone needs to realize that you can't do anything alone. The magnitude of social problems and environmental issues is not something that anybody or any organization can solve alone. So please start being very open-minded about collaboration. Drop the egos, drop the logos, put the mission at the center of everything that we are doing so that we can collaborate and really drive the change that we want to see. So collaboration, while sounds very simple, not easy to strike, but start with like-minded partners. Collaboration doesn't have to be 50 partners. Even if you have 1 or 2 like-minded partners that you can demonstrate success, then you see more people coming on board to work together for a certain mission and cause. Third thing, connecting the dots. When you're doing something, whether it's education or environmental issues, you realize that so many other people are doing the same or have same objectives, doing different things with the same objectives. So I think one of the things that we have found to be very useful in our experience search is trying to connect the dots of all of these different things that's going on, so that we can pull together our resources and say, look, if you are concentrating on, for example, in education, if you're doing STEM and STEM enhancements in public schools, then someone else can do something else, or we can share and collaborate. So connecting the dots. The fourth one is obviously capacity and capability. Fourth, capacity and capability. And this is ongoing. I think we all need to support each other. Part of the work that YH is doing is to help with building the capacity and capability of our non-profit sector, so that they can be more, they can be better in terms of fundraising, governance, whether it's communications, and many things that they look at. And finally, which I think we all don't do very well, is communications. Sometimes we do all 4 very well, but we fail to communicate how good the program is or has been and the impacts of the program. So this is something that I reflected, and I think the 5 C's that will help all of us achieve impact at scale, so that we all need to basically work together a lot better in the 21st century. We are in the 21st century. We are already facing the challenges of pandemic. Look at the rain yesterday in KL.
Yeah, I hope everyone was okay. Yesterday it rained horrible again. So I hope everyone's okay. I hope everyone wasn't too flooded out.
It was quite scary. Yeah, it's quite relentless this past few months. So if we can just finish off the slides, maybe then we can have a bit of a conversation, Serge.
Sure.
So I won't go through this. These are just different models of partnership that Yayasan Hasanah practices. And we can share the slides and you can have a look at it. And this is just to say, and also for anyone who's interested also, right? Yayasan Hasanah has 2, Yayasan Khazanah, actually the scholarship arm of Yayasan Hasanah, have 2 programs that we do. We have a program called ACE, which is an executive short course for persons working within the non-profit sector. So we fund up till 25,000 ringgit if you are wanting to attend different skill enhancements program to issues that are linked to the SDGs. Recently we've sent a participant that wants to learn how to do GHG calculations and how do you do that, or carbon credits and stuff like that, whatever, in the 5 segments of work that we do. And we also offer postgraduate scholarships to courses that are also linked to SDGs. Yeah, I mean, if you think about law, human rights, if you know, even social workers, mental health, psychologists, and all these different trainings that's actually going to help in delivering societal value. Just so you know, a lot of people don't know about this, and so you can apply for these scholarships. And then, of course, we've got various other knowledge products that we do on an ongoing basis. So next slide. I don't know what's on the next slide.
Change makers. It is International Women's Day. I mean, one of the questions we always wanted to ask you by having you on this program with us was, you know, what are your thoughts on the role women can play in every nation, especially developing nations, to build a stronger kind of ESG and CSR sustainable program of some kind? What do you think the roles are?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always talk about diversity and inclusivity and the value different individuals brings to the table. And I think the level playing field between obviously men and women, I mean, you know, we are better off today than we have been in the past. But I think if we recognize and respect diversity and different inputs that different individuals can bring, I think that's actually a good start. But you know, Serge, and that's why God made us different, right? Because men and women bring different things to the table.
You know, I come from Canada, of course, and I think the challenges of the gender was well established for the past 100 years, and there's been a lot of equality. But at the same time, there's so much diversity in Canada that you had to really be, what did you say, recognize and respect that diversity, especially on ages, because people still work up until the age in industry up to 80 years old, right? You're not forced to retire. That's illegal to force you to retire. So you have gender equality was worked on, but age and then ethnic, the full spectrum of ethnicity in Canada. So there's a lot of work to do in respecting and recognizing those differences and recognizing I guess the things that are the same. You all want to do good in this world, so I think you could start with what's the same. I think you know, and then recognize the value that each different human being brings.
Yeah, such also I think as I reflected, I think the social sector obviously need leaders who have an astute ability to balance the head and the heart. Right, you need to have a really good balance of the head and the heart, and I think women, well, I know it's breaking the bias, you know, but I think women are well placed for this. And I mean, even if you look at how nations have dealt with the COVID-19 crisis, the female-led nations actually did so much better than their male counterparts, I'd say, in terms of how the crisis was managed. And really, I think it's because different individuals bring different, like I said, values and skill sets to the table, right? So if you think about the qualities around collaboration, multi-stakeholder engagements, communications, empathy, you know, social rights and justice. These are kind of the values and qualities that are required in the sector, and both men and women bring different dimensions to this. And so I think, you know, it's not surprising if someone asked me why do you think the social sector is led more by women? Well, in Yayasan Hasanah, yes, we do have more women, but actually someone was sharing a statistics with me earlier that when they were looking at the graduate unemployability program, they also found that they have more women candidates coming out of universities. It used to be like maybe 50-50, 60-40. Today it's more like 75-25, you know, more women. So yeah, I think this slide really doesn't do justice to all of the women change makers that we're seeing in Yayasan Hasanah. Oftentimes, obviously because of I don't know whether it's the nurturing nature of women, but quite a lot of the, programs that we do in communities, just in terms of commitment and attendance and the desire for improvements and change in their lives, seem to be led and anchored by women in the community when we see them, and even like parenting skills. When we require the parents to join, the mothers are usually very consistent in attending with their children. Just so many amazing and wonderful stories. And in many of our communities, actually, when we do community leadership program, again, this is also led by women. And you can see that the overall well-being of the family is improved when the mother is empowered and given the income and the ability to improve the state of the family unit. So I can go on. I have tons of stories about
About I got a question. There's some questions in the chat I haven't been getting to, but there's one of them that is interesting to me. How do you balance kind of the humanitarian aspect of giving, the emergency response, those kind of things, versus a long-term program and investing in that sustainability to the communities that you're helping? How do you balance that? Obviously, it's a pretty big challenge.
Yeah. So we do both. Actually, we have our long-term projects and KPIs, more impact-based KPIs. And actually, before the pandemic, quite a lot of our work is long-term, whether it's public school transformation, whether it's improvement in special education assessment in public schools, whether it's environmental conservation, deforestation, water security issues, all of that. A lot of that were long-term projects. We are a long-term impact-based foundation. But in the last 2 years, specifically 2020, 2021, about 70 to 80% of our work was crisis response, because the need of the community was such. I can't be asking the community to be thinking about long-term impact and outcome when they can't even put food on the table, right, for the day. So the need was immediate, but prior to that, we are always doing what you call preparedness training. Before the pandemic, it typically was preparedness on climate issues, right? Preparedness on managing floods, landslides, things that are more typical in Malaysia, and working with communities to prepare them. So we do a lot of that. But the last 2 years was just urgent, immediate need, basically food on the table, and then pivoting business, very micro businesses online. Because their shops are closed, their little shop in front of their flat, they can't do that, as during the lockdown. So a lot of reskilling and training of pivoting them online. And I can say that quite a lot of the men and women that we supported are doing actually quite well with online business, because obviously now they've expanded their market and reaching a lot more new customers. So quite a lot of that.
A bit of silver lining, getting out of their community and getting more clients from elsewhere.
Yeah, but we definitely saw a lot of silver linings during the pandemic.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that. It wasn't all doom and gloom. That's good news. That's good news. Another question in the chat. So I don't know whether you want to go to more questions in the chat, or do you want to finish your slide? Sorry, I keep cutting in.
My slide is finished now. Is there anything else?
Most important one, your team.
Our team. How many male do we have there?
There's a few. I see a few.
This is the Hasana team, and this was during our Chinese New Year Yisang gathering. Thought I'll introduce the team as well.
Ooh, that's very nice of you. And this is how we contact you.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. I'll stop presenting. Those were great slides. I thank you very much we can ask a few. There's a few more questions in the chat, but
Yes.
those were great. It was a great introduction to you, your team, and all the good things Yayasan Hasanah is doing and plans to do. Keep up the good work, I guess. Another question is, you know how there seems to be, certainly in the market today or in business and in giving, there's a much higher focus on ESG and CSR along with government policies. What do you think is driving kind of this shift is it a fundamental change, or is it just trending now? Or do you think there's an actual fundamental change to the way companies approach ESG and CSR? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think that the approach now is a lot more substantial and material and fundamental versus, I'd say, 10 years ago when it was merely, you know, one of those sustainability reports that we used to do and quite driven by charities and CSR. I do think today businesses are looking at this in a lot seriously. I know Hasana, for example, under a lot of its own investee companies, the sustainability agenda is being driven in quite a big way, like I said, in material ways, right? You know, whether it's telco or utilities and so on and so forth. And also because, you know, at the end of the day, I think, you know, we've read quite a lot of the climate crisis issues, you know, on one side, you know, they said scientists are saying we are at a point of no return. And then there's obviously quite a lot of hope. You know, we all need hope to move forward. And honestly, for businesses, it's really about survivability. I mean, they've done their research and data, and they've realized if they don't become a lot more sustainable and look at sustainability issues in a meaningful way, they're probably going to be running out of business in not very long, in the not too distant future, to be honest. So I know the financial sectors are looking at real sustainability measurements and metrics. And I think we saw one slide earlier around the intersection of corporate philanthropy and business for good, as businesses look at stock taking on their sort of ESG and sustainability deliverables. Actually, they can harness and work together with their either CSR or philanthropic sort of foundation in supporting those narratives, because quite a lot of companies have been doing meaningful work over the years, but it's just that we're so blocked about philanthropy should be philanthropy and sustainability and ESG is on its own. There are some synergies, and actually businesses can benefit a lot from the work that their foundations are doing in terms of real grassroots work, and you know, and surface them into some of the more into the sustainability and ESG matrix that the companies are looking at. So
sure, I mean that goes hand in hand with another question in the chat. Actually, it's not in the chat; it's in the questions. I'm sorry, I wasn't monitoring the questions. We got a bunch of questions in the questions boxes. So if you're in a private, like us, I guess, like ALECA, we're a private, small to medium enterprise. How could we get involved to support you and the foundation? I mean, you know, there's an expression, many hands make light work. How can we help, right?
You know, going back to the 5 C's, you know, we are always open in discussions, and actually it's not just with Yayasan Hasanah, right? There are many people who are looking at sustainability and climate work, search, and to be very frank, I think this skill set around carbon and carbon sequestration and GHG emissions, all of these are actually quite new to many in the sector, and actually, you know, we can always learn from each other and support each other in that sense. I think the opportunity.
Thank you, ALECA. That's what we do. We do a lot of greenhouse gas emission calculations, but also training and everything else on carbon footprint. So that's kind of the ALECA thing. So thanks for promoting us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely a lot of synergies, and even for the work that YH is doing, some of the aspirations or the social issues that needs to be resolved is quite complex. And it's not an area where we can do on our own. So like, for example, one of the work that we're looking at in the next 5 years is trying to demonstrate a sustainable development model for a state. So states can now look at new economy models for their revenues, rather than depending and relying heavily on old economic model, whether it's mining or logging, and quite a lot of that, which is still happening in the States, in Malaysia. So how can states look at new economic models, carbon sequestration sort of offerings in that sense, and generate, or ecotourism, tourism dollars and stuff like that, to generate new models of revenue, so that they don't need to continue to rely on old economic models. So obviously these are things that is multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder collaboration. It's not something that YH can do alone. So quite a lot of these complex issues require collaboration.
Sure, that goes hand in hand with another question in the chat. I'll just read it to you. Many of our universities have not fully caught up with the corporate or government world of ESG, CSR, and sustainability. If you had a message to all the young professionals, here at ALECA Talks, we have a lot of young professionals that tune in, or students themselves who are just kind of entering the industry. They may not be quite as familiar to ESG. What would your message be at this stage of their career as they enter industry, if you had a message to them?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I'm pro young. I'm pro youth, I'd say. So, I would say don't underestimate your capacity, capability, and potential to drive change, number one. Number two, I think don't think that the older ones have all the answers, because they probably don't. They're trying to figure it out themselves. So do not feel intimidated about that. And actually, quite a lot of the solutions and change that we're going to see for the future is going to be coming from all of you young people. You are more plugged in. You know what the issues are. You're more invested, because you're going to, be taking, having the future. You need to face the future, and it doesn't look very promising as we stand here today. So do not underestimate your power, is my message to young people, especially those in the university, and also take advantage of all of the resources that are being made available for you to build your resources and capacity. You all have heard about the future of work, fourth industrial revolution, the new way of learning. The old models are really outdated, honestly. So don't underestimate your power for change, actually. Rely on us for a little of wisdom, but actually you're going to wisdom and experience maybe a little bit, but young people, you guys are going to be leading the change. So do tap on the resources that are available, because there are a lot of resources available for you in building your own capacity and capability.
Okay, thank you. Those were great words. I love it. Yeah, old people don't have all the answers. That's a good one. Just remember that most of the older people have lived without the internet for most of their life. So clearly, we don't have all the answers. Another question in the chat here. Thank you very much. Well, one of the things that a lot of the ESG and CSR are looking at today is, of course, climate change, and how are we sequestering our carbon, and making sure we have enough balance of the carbon in the sky, in the atmosphere. And one of the questions here is deforestation. What are your thoughts? What has Yayasan Hasanah worked at all with the forestry and looked at how much forest products are being cut versus planted? Are you working at, you have how many SDG goals? You have 15 out of 17.
Yeah.
Any of them regarding forestry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our environment work, we do look at both freshwater, marine, as well as forest ecosystems. Yeah, so we do we've done quite a lot of research to have our own data around forest cover in the country. So we've done our own geospatial type research, and then of course now with the drone technology and so on and so forth. So we do have current data on forest cover. And one of the things that Yayasan Hasanah started doing in 2018, 2019 is to actually look at our central forest spine in Malaysia and looking at reconnecting broken forest complexes. So we are continuing on that. But again, it's not just about reforest, going and planting trees, because you need to change legislation and change the laws to ensure that some of this work becomes more sustainable. So that's part of the work that we are demonstrating in Perak. And also, I think recently with the COP commitments that companies needs to do, I know quite a lot of companies came back and say, hey, we need to plant 1 million trees, or somebody else need to plant 300,000 trees, whatever, to get to neutral or zero. And this is actually an opportunity for a lot of the corporate foundations who are doing environmental work to actually help their business counterparts with this replanting and all of that, right? So that's where I see quite a lot of synergy and experience that can be harnessed and leveraged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. A lot of partnerships to deliver your programs. So SDG number 17. I mean, I see someone was very specific and looked at all your SDGs.
That's an SDG expert.
Yeah, an SDG expert agreed, and they're looking at number 17. I think you've done a lot of work on partnerships and leading the way and connecting people and communicating and connecting different partnerships. I think he's recommending that maybe you should count it that you guys actually do 17 as well.
Yeah, I asked the same question to my team. How come we're not on SDG 17? But I think the details of those SDGs did have quite a lot of G2G partnerships, government to government partnerships, and the way in which that SDG was defined. I think the team felt that maybe it's not what we do, but we definitely can have a look at it again. I mean, just on the title, obviously we do quite a lot of partnerships for our impacts in Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, that's about it on the question side. Thank you everyone for your questions. It was very good to hear from everyone. We've had 50 people on the call. And it was a very interesting talk. It was gives us a lot of things to think about.
Questions here. How long do we have for 45 minutes?
Yeah, you got about another 10 minutes. 10 minutes. We usually try to end within an hour, but we got about another 10 minutes if you'd like to go through any more of the questions. But I think we went through them all.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. The long-term programs, I mean, we talked about humanitarian versus short-term versus long-term training, awareness of the government. Yeah. Success stories. I mean, you kind of mentioned the silver lining. Any other success stories that you would like to share, if you have any more?
I think another silver lining that really came out during the pandemic is the recognition of government on the role of civil society and NGOs, as partners of development in the country. For the longest time, NGOs have been trying to strike this partnership with the public sector. And I think when we started the lockdown in March 2020 and all through 2020, 2021, NGOs were down on the ground with the people and the community. And I think they worked very closely with government agencies that perhaps couldn't actually be nimble or fast enough to go on the ground. So I think these are silver linings. I think the recognition, and we are hearing we're getting recognition and acknowledgement of government on the role of civil society, and that trust capital is being built again. And I think that is another silver lining that took place. And of course, quite a lot with schools, although we're struggling a lot. I think digitization is something that many educationists have been advocating for many, many years, and then it just happened. And then we saw how, not only parents, students, but teachers struggling in providing education. So we did a lot of reskilling, building confidence of teachers to teach online, and quite a lot of that happened. So hopefully something good come out of it, It's really redefining how we work, how we learn, and things like that.
Wow. What next? What do you think? What do you think your focus is going to be now that we put, I hope, knock on wood, that we put things behind us, 2020, 2021? What's going to be your focus, do you think, in 2022? What would you like to, in your KPI, what would you think is a successful 2022 for your group?
Yeah. So we actually have a 5-year plan. We have a whole theory of change for each of our pillar, and we do have a 5-year plan. For example, for education, we're going to be looking at a lot on mental health and how can we support our youth and adolescents in managing their mental, emotional, spiritual, physical well-being, and in trying to understand that, create awareness, and also providing access to services for them. Because for quite a lot of the B40 kids going to get professional help, it's a long queue in the government hospital. So how can we assist, and how can we also let them understand what's actually going on? It's all not suicidal, or it's all not as bad as they think it is. So quite a lot of work on mental health. I mentioned to you on Perak, the work that we're doing in Perak, which is a multi-stakeholder work 5-year plan. We're also doing zero plastic waste for the next 5 years for Malaysia. So that's a huge piece of work. Maybe we can collaborate there, Serge.
Wow. Wow. I would love to get involved. Actually, we have another one on the call that is a plastic expert on our call here. We would love to get involved.
Yeah, so a lot of things going on, and that's a 5-year plan. So we hope that we don't get too derailed with humanitarian response and crisis. Really, I think everyone we've all gone through a lot, in the last 2 years, all of us.
Yeah.
And I hope things turn for the better, both on the pandemic side and also all of the climate issues that we're seeing lately.
Yeah, agreed. I like the mental health idea, because we don't know how it has affected our youth. Because for me, I'm an old guy, so a couple of years of my life in lockdown is just 2 out of 50. But someone young, it's 2 out of 6 or 2 out of 8. So it's a much more significant part of their life that they were on lockdown. So I don't know, I don't know how that's going to affect a whole generation of people. And it's your formative years, isn't it? You
Absolutely.
really formulate your response to other human beings, to your tribe, to your community. So I don't know. I'm happy that that's one of your focuses. So I'd like to get involved too. If whatever you need, reach out to all of us, and maybe we can support you.
Maybe I can do a plug search that if I can invite all the listeners to kind of check out our website,
Yes, please.
We definitely are open to collaborate with everyone that are aligned to those 5 areas of work that we're looking at.
Yeah, yes, please. Everyone reach out to Yayasan Hasanah and offer some support, and we can build a community right here through ALECA Talks, and just support you as much as we can. There's just too many good things that you're doing, and like I say, as an SME, a small to medium enterprise, we don't have a chief sustainability officer, we don't have a CSR officer or an ESG officer. So it's very hard to between everything else we're doing to dedicate time. But we would love to have that structured approach with a 5-year plan and just jump on board and help you do good. And it would be an honor, honestly. We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
My goodness, what a pleasure to have you on ALECA Talks. It was an interesting time, and your time is appreciated, and your team's time. I know these slides and everything else.
Thank you.
We appreciate your support. Everyone on the call.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and also wanted to thank everyone that commented on the comments. I take note. I'm just reading them. Sorry, we may not be able to answer everything directly, but thank you so much for your participation.